But
All right. Here we go, everybody. Hey, everybody. How's it going? It's Andy, aka producer, by the way, on Twitter, or Cafe BTW on TikTok. And of course, this is Cafe BTW, a morning gaming nostalgia podcast. And I hope that everyone is having a better week. You know, we've had some crazy things happen in the beginning of 2021, but we're going to today focus on some fun topics. As you see on the bottom here, we have a really, really fun guest today. And Ryan, you can wave to the camera. We have Ryan NERF War Battles from TikTok. What's up, Ryan, man? Thanks so much for joining the podcast.
well, thank you for reaching out and having me on. I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's awesome because you are essentially, I'm going to pull up your TikTok here. You are essentially, and can I call you an influencer? I know sometimes they don't like being called influencers, but you're pretty much a NERF influencer. And I'd like to just quickly give us like a little quick top line on what you do just every day on social media, and then we'll kind of backtrack into your history and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So how let's just like, and I'm gonna pull up these videos. So obviously, Ryan, you have tons of Nerf guns, but let's start in the how did you even become a Nerf influencer? How did that even happen?
So I mean, really, it began with kind of making a gift for a family member. Um,
A gift for a family member.
a gift for a family member. They were super into Nerf at the time, super into Nerf, and so the so like I had this idea of like, okay, well, what if I make them like a custom blaster, right? They were also really into the Legend of Zelda at the time, so I was going to find just some blaster. I had recently saw the video of Adam Savage do kind of like that Nerf Long Strike uh, kind of blaster conversion where he makes it all kind of grimy and kind of more realistic looking. I figure I could try my hand on that on a much smaller scale. Um, and,
Interesting.
and so I did that. And what I noticed when I was like looking for a Nerf blaster was like there was like prices wildly varied. And at the time I was flipping toys on eBay. And so like I'm like, all right, well, I'll just
Is
kind of
that a
flip.
good racket? Flipping toys on eBay? Is that a good racket?
I'm sorry, what
Is
was
that a
that?
good racket? Flipping toys on eBay?
I mean, it can be, yeah, depending on the toys. And of course, I'd always take like a more retro bend to it, just because I knew that's what people were looking more for. And even if they weren't in really good condition, people would still purchase them for parts.
Oh, okay, cool.
So like you would find like a He-Man arm, but like you'd be excited because somebody would want that because they're missing He-Man's left arm.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense. Cool.
but there's this whole Nerf angle of it where you have this like huge internet community that I wasn't aware of at the time, uh, that would modify blasters like really hardcore. Just like these things absolutely destroy. like, and then you also had like collectors because Nerf is such a long-lasting brand. I mean, if we go back all the way to like the original Nerf ball, I mean that's like 1970s, very late 60s.
Did the
Um,
Nerf football come first, oh no, the ball? I think I know what you're talking about. It's
yeah,
like I'm gonna pull it up. I think I have it.
yeah, it's
Uh
like an orange little squishy.
oh, it's like, well, this one's gray, but I think it's just like the ball, right?
Yeah,
Um, that's crazy. So
yeah, that's
that's
the
where it
one.
all started. It was just a ball, just a Nerf ball.
Yeah, what was I believe it was like a Minnesota Viking wanted to create like an indoor kind of ball to play with so that it wouldn't like wreck your house. Um, and they came up with this chemical formula for this foam, and kind of the rest is history with that. So but yes, kind of go back to this. So my whole goal was to like set up an Instagram, to do like what a
Right.
lot of other retro toy sellers were doing. Create a big enough following and then do like those auctions, right, where it's everybody like, I've got this, who wants to claim it. um but like to do that, like I wanted to post regular content. And then TikTok came along. And of course I had all these Nerf blasters in stock, listed at various stages in eBay. um and I just posted a couple videos just to kind of understand the platform a little more because everybody was talking about it. This was just right before everything started locking down. And sure enough, one of the videos went viral. I'm still not exactly sure why. But
I think
overnight,
that's
I had like 20,000 followers.
overnight. You had 20 off of that first post. So when did you join TikTok at the very beginning or the end of 2019 kind of thing? And I know that 2020 at the end of I joined at the end of 2019, but I kind of like stopped, didn't really use it until a little bit later. So you were part of that 2020 boom per
Yeah.
se. Um, and that's the thing I just wanted to talk about, that is that I think that TikTok has created more of a niche community for people like you, like nichey types of whether it's projects or things you do or artists. You can be really more nichey than any other social media platform, in my opinion. And you're a good example of that. And I just wanted to get your feeling on the TikTok niche that you've kind of created too, and how important that was for your brand.
Yeah, I mean, like you're right on the money with kind of like being super specific on TikTok doesn't necessarily mean you get less reach. And that's incredible. Like we haven't seen that on a platform. I mean, since maybe the super early days of YouTube before they had, the very highly tuned algorithm that's, kind of the either the kingmaker or the bane of your existence. And like for instance, I follow this one guy on TikTok, just all about cast iron pans. Like I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. Um, there's the air fryer thing became a thing. Like who there's like an air fryer influencer. I mean, what is going on TikTok? You know,
And
but
there's also the one guy who repairs KitchenAid stand mixers. Like that's his whole thing. Like regrease a KitchenAid stand mixer.
a KitchenAid stand mixer.
Yes.
Oh my
Like that's
god.
his whole thing. Like he tells you like how the gears get stripped out and like how to open it up. And like I'm sure you could find all this stuff on YouTube, but the fact that it just surfaces on TikTok is so beautifully bizarre.
So now that you've kind of established yourself as a NERF influencer, do you have a relationship with NERF? Do they send you things? Do you have that opportunity to get stuff from Hasbro? And just so everyone knows, Hasbro, Ryan Wright, owns the rights to NERF, right?
Yeah, yeah. Hasbro is the parent company to the kind of the Nerf brand, and of course Hasbro owns most of the toys on the toy store shelves. I mean, all the Marvel stuff, all the Star Wars stuff. Uh, I mean, we could go on and on and on about what they
They
own, but those
they
are some
own
of the big.
so many IPs: Transformers, He Man.
Yep.
They are IP happy, I guess. Uh, but okay, so Ryan, now that you've become this Nerf influencer, what could you tell us? Just like kind of like give, can you? Is there any way besides? I know we kind of were jumping around, but what's some more brief kind of like, if you had to walk us through the evolution of Nerf and how things have kind of evolved from what we remember from being kids, or at least my age, where we'd be running around shooting Nerf guns, bow arrows, Nerf football. By the way, I was a huge Nerf football fan when I was a kid. So how
I
have
still
you?
have that whistle just like programmed in my memory. That sound of the whistle, like anytime I hear that.
Absolutely. And good morning, Biff and Marta and Omega and everyone that's stopped by so far. Thank you so much. It's good to see everyone. So how is it how has it changed at all through its evolution? Do you think that the brand has there been any major changes, or what have you seen as we've evolved from the early days of Nerf, from like the 90s where it was very popular, to now?
Well, I love the videos that you have up right now because like that's kind of where Nerf started, right? It was like this very toy thing, right? Like when we think of Nerf blasters, right? Like it's these very toy. These have these very very unique toy qualities to them, performance and realism and like all these other metrics that we kind of see now were just kind of secondary. It was just about like throwing in a suction cup dart and seeing if you could get it stuck on your CRT TV. Uh, over time though, things slowly changed, and I think we see like a really big turning point in kind of the whole Nerf thing, um, with what was called Dart Tag, and that was kind of Nerf's very first attempt to kind of take a look at what was going around, how people were using their product, and try to turn it into a competitive sport. It was like the very early days of like esports, right? So you had like the Cyber Athlete Amateur League and things like that, and now you have like all these very sophisticated, right, esports leagues, teams, coaches, like all that kind of stuff. Um, So Dart Tag was kind of this inflection point, which was really cool. It solved one of the biggest problems in NERF is like if people who play the game will attest to the fact that if you try to tag somebody with a dart, they can just lie about it extremely easily, or they might not even feel it. I mean, like, the whole reason there's the word nerf is because it's like weak. So dart tag darts had like Velcro to them, and that would allow you to kind of have visual proof that you hit somebody. And so from there, people kind of demanded more, right? They wanted to push the line a little further, where then you also had End Strike, right? So that was kind of like the very first performance blasters where you had like external magazines and you had kind of this more bend to realism. And then of course you go with Elite, which is kind of further pushing the boundaries of performance, where I think we're at a spot now where Nerf and Hasbro feel like they're kind of at their limits as to how far they can kind of push performance without running against any sort of toy laws or toy safety issues.
Interesting. I guess that's another thing, is that, isn't it true they're not guns, they're blasters, the technical term? Or do people still call, or is there a problem when
most people call them Nerf guns, right?
But that's not
just
correct technically.
Yeah, no, yeah, they are blasters, and there's probably like a very good specific legal reason for that. And the reason I say that is just because everybody else in the community talks about it. There's actually like a lot of debate as to people banning the word gun from Nerf. I guess my view of it is like, I mean, it kind of looks like a duck. It acts like a duck.
Right. It is.
But I understand the reason why. Like there's such a stigma around that, and there's some very like heavy concerns around what is appropriate play.
Has Hasbro ever experienced any major like associations to violence with their guns? Have they ever been like, has there ever been any problems where they've been, I know like we've known video game violence has always been a thing in the news. Has Nerf ever fallen into that? Have there ever been issues where publicly there's been an outcry, this is violent, these guns are too real, even though they don't look very real at all? They're very much not realistic. They're very sci-fi, I guess. But has that ever happened?
I don't think to the extent that video games have been under fire. Because like with Nerf, you have this inherent, like, because Hasbro's been very careful with that, right? They have this kind of built-in safety mechanism of like not making them too real, right? Very neon colors. I mean, the darts are foam. Whereas video games, I think it's a little different, where you have some very realistic scenes. So like that's probably where you're splitting, like where a lot of people are splitting hairs there. But that's not to say that there isn't issues with it. Like you go to any sort of like parent blog, and you'll see like every once in a while somebody will kind of question, is this the kind of appropriate play to have out there? And I think some of the issue that Hasbro would have is with people modifying darts, and like you see this on TikTok a lot, and it's just like it makes me just like cringe a little bit. It's when they modify the darts to put like thumbtacks and stuff on there.
I did see that. Is that like a running thing where you put the thumbtacks and like it sticks to the wall kind of thing? You could really hurt someone, right? I mean, technically.
Yeah, I mean, like that's legit. Like how people. Yeah, I mean, like going back to if we go to A Christmas Story, right? Like that's how people get their eye shot out.
Yeah, you'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Yeah.
So how many? Definitely nothing as bad as Fisher Price's My First Railgun. Biff Buffington says. So.
Well, that's funny. There was a line of toys in the 80s.
Yep.
Entertech. Do you remember these?
How do you spell that?
Entered. ENTERTECH, maybe. They were squirt guns.
Oh my god, I remember
that
this.
Were Uzis.
Oh yeah.
and unfortunately, some police saw kids with that, and that was like a tragedy.
Oh my god, I pulled it up right now. They look way too real, man. I mean,
exactly. And there was some police.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's like a rocket launcher. You see this guy? This guy has like a rocket launcher. Jesus.
Yeah. So we'll never see blasters like that again, or
no, never. And I think they still are strong on, if there is like a water gun it has to have the orange tip, or something like that.
That's by law. Yeah,
that's by law, right?
Hmm.
But obviously back then it didn't seem like that was a thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy, Ryan. And I just want to take before we kind of go a little bit further into more of your collection, because I do want to ask you more. I just want to do like a little bit of backstory on you and you know where you come from, you know what you've done in your career, and I know that you're some type of gamer, so I'd like to hear a little bit of your personal history as well.
Yeah. So I mean, like I fly the geek banner proud. So I do come from a video game background. I worked in video games for a very long time. I did game reviews for a well defunct website now. But I was able to kind of take that and then translate that into, a game development kind of bend for a while. So kind of the years I was active was really like around the PSP up until really, I mean, we saw the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 almost launch. Like I kind of ended my kind of gaming stint, right at the very end of the PlayStation 3 life cycle.
And then you were so you were reviewing for a video, you were doing reviews for video game, so you were like editorial stuff on the website, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it was specifically reviews. Like I was the director of reviews for this website as just a kid, which is kind of funny to think about. But yeah, I mean, we would just crank reviews out, and that was just really an interesting time. Like I was best friends with the FedEx driver because like something new would be coming to my door like every day, every other day to get a look at.
That's really cool. So wait, what year was this about? PSP? So
PSP, that was 2005.
2005. Okay. So this is still on the cusp of like, you know, major, you know, kind of I think it was starting to see more internet. I guess the I'm just thinking of like journalism and gaming, but I guess it's kind of still that was still like an early time for the internet kind of stuff, I would say.
It was. I mean, there were the big established players, of course. Still like IGN.
Oh,
I think at
IGN's
the
been
time
around
was still kind of
forever.
like a federated website where it was like like PlayStation, IGN. Like there were like very specific you know uh, areas of IGN, and then YouTube. I mean, wasn't a thing at all. Like YouTube, the platform was just getting started.
That's crazy to think of that. Well, so then and then today, what do you do if you don't mind? What do you do today? And you're in marketing as well today, right? Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I mean, like I took everything I learned kind of in this digital realm, um, and then I translated that into a marketing career. So that was really kind of when I transitioned over to the game development side of things. It was in community management, public relations, digital marketing, things like that. And then I just kind of continued that. And I don't do it for the game industry anymore, but I still do that. I really, I mean, I love everything about it.
And do you so okay, so back to kind of your collection. How many guns do you think you own currently? And is that because and did you always have a big collection of guns, or did it become more? Did you start collecting more because you became more of an influencer?
Yeah, yeah. So, it's around like 100. Like, I mean, it's over 100, somewhere probably between 100 and 200 unique blasters, and I would consider a unique blaster like a different color variant of the same one.
Interesting.
So, for instance, like that Percy's, like if I had a blue one, I would still consider that a Percy's, right? I would still consider that one. But I have a lot of duplicates, a lot of triplicates, quadruplicates. I don't know if that's a word.
Now it is.
Now it is. And and yeah, I mean, like so it started really. I was just stocking the ones that would sell well on eBay and taking the chance on some of the odd ones that I wasn't quite sure about. But then, yeah, once the video started kicking off, I would try to collect more unique ones that I could talk about, the ones that I didn't have. And really, a lot of these were thrifted, right? From Goodwill, from Facebook Marketplace, garage sales, things like that. And then after a time, Hasbro gets in touch with you. And that was thanks to a lot of like some of the friends I made on the platform. So like Nerfers 101, Sophie
Sophie
Lightning.
Lightning, I know her.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Foam from Above. He's kind of like he's been
From
in the
from
Nerf community
above.
forever. One of his he's got a lot of great stories. I won't won't tell his stories, but like he's a very interesting dude in terms of how long he's been in the Nerf influencer community.
Interesting. How big is this Nerf influencer community?
So, I mean, like it depends on what you consider.
Okay.
Like on YouTube is probably like the biggest area for the community, and you have people that do like those kind of point of view Nerf battles, uh, like Aaron Esser or PDK Films. So they get like a bunch of their friends and like they kind of have like this scripted Nerf battle, and
Okay.
people love it. Like, tens of millions of views on those things. And then you also kind of have the people that talk more about reviewing and performance and things like that. Those people have anywhere from hundreds of thousands to millions of subs. So it's bigger than people think. And then you have just a constellation of Facebook groups dedicated to modifying blasters and just sharing knowledge.
That's awesome. And Genzo, thanks for the gifted sub to No Fear. And what's up, No Fear? Thanks for stopping by. That's interesting. Genzo actually says, I followed Out of Darts for a while on YouTube. Wow, these names are very clever, I must say.
Yeah, well, like
very
and
punny.
his stuff in particular is super fascinating. So basically, he had like a aftermarket part store, but then he got into 3D printing, designed his own blaster, and he just makes them and ships them out. Like it's incredible, and like he will have original designs to modify these blasters.
That's awesome. Yeah, my and I just want to talk just briefly about my experience with Nerf. Is as a kid I loved Nerf guns, and I mean, for me, I think they were very much a part of my childhood. I don't know, Ryan, I might skew a little older than you, but I went to high school in the mid 90s, and then elementary school obviously like in the early 90s. So I definitely had my experience with, I remember in particularly being in my elementary school recess lot, and there would be one kid who had the screaming Nerf football. And
Mm-hmm.
that one kid, and it would always like, that kid is like, I have to be the quarterback. So he would play quarterback on both teams. He was the owner of the ball, but it was still like a big deal playing Nerf football at recess. And then that goes beyond using the guns as well. But I was a messy toy owner. So my Nerf guns, I'd lose the darts. It'd always be a mess, and instead of like, I don't even know if they had extra packs of Nerf darts back in those days. They might have, I guess. I don't know. But I would always just end up buying another gun to get more Nerf arrows. So I definitely don't own any of my Nerf toys or anything from back then, but it's definitely a part of my childhood, and I that's why I find this episode really fascinating, because I never thought I would have like a Nerf episode. So this is like kind of cool. But I did want to tell you that I have a really quick story for you about Hasbro. So I used to do a podcast called A Destiny Podcast, but before it was called A Destiny Podcast, it was called Nerfed A Destiny Podcast. So it was Nerf apostrophe D. And the reason we picked that is because Nerf is a terminology in gaming meaning to debuff something. So when they put out a hot fix at a company, they go, we either buffed or we nerfed this thing. So this is an interesting argument I want to talk to you about. First of all, the word nerf meaning in gaming to soften something has to relate back directly to the meaning of nerf, because nerf is just like padded weapons and safety, right? I think there's a connotation understanding that that's what it means. So we did this podcast, and we were like, maybe we should copyright our name, right? So we're like, I actually get a lawyer, Ryan, and the lawyer looks up if they've ever patented the word nerf duh. So nerf apostrophe D, so she's like, there's never been a copyright for that particular part of the name. So we put in this we put it through, and the US government approved the name nerfed apostrophe D. But here's the kicker. The kicker is that so it took about 6 months for the Copyright Office to approve it, right? So once it's approved, there's a 30-day time period where anyone could see it and go against it or fight against it. I forget what it's called, but it's like a grace period.
Mm-hmm.
So literally the day before the grace period was over and this copyright would have locked in, a Hasbro lawyer reaches out to us. And she's like, so we get on a call with her and she's like, I don't understand. At first I just wanted to sue you guys right away. And then I started looking a little bit more into what you guys are doing. And I noticed you guys are just doing a podcast. And she even said, I had no idea that NERF meant a word in gaming as a terminology. And she's like, look, we're not going to sue you guys right now. You guys seem like wonderful people. You're just like two like dudes, but we need you to rebrand your podcast and we're going to give you 60 days. So, Ryan, if that copyright went through a day later and they reached out to us, me and my buddy could have been like, well, you guys want this back? You're going to have to pay us for it. And that we were literally a day away from actually having the ownership of NERVDA. So I wanted to share that story with you because that's my connection with Hasbro. And,
Oh, geez. I mean, that is the definition of clenching a loss from the jaws of victory.
isn't that funny though? They were very reasonable. Okay,
That's good.
they could have totally destroyed us, and they didn't. So
Yeah, that was that must have been very harrowing.
it was crazy because like literally we could have been like, hey, you guys want us to take this down? Give us $1 million and we'll take it down because we own the rights to this copyright. But like the U.S. government approved it. It's just crazy to me that I wonder how they saw it. They just like they must have caught it like really late. And because what they ended up doing, Ryan, is they extended the grace period with the government, so it gave them time to reach out to us. But yeah, just I don't think a small Destiny podcast versus Hasbro would have won. So, but that being said, I want to kind of pivot over to the modern day NERF and what I'm seeing today. What are you seeing today with the brand itself? What is different about the brand today? I know that I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Fortnite collaboration as well and how that came about. And if you could just kind of touch on like what's happening around NERF today.
I mean, there's a lot of like change in this like specific toy aisle, we'll call it. You have NERF kind of sticking tried and true to what's been working for them. To varying success. I mean, like I think with the NERF stuff, like that is like the NERF Fortnite stuff, that's absolutely brilliant. Like I don't play the game. I haven't played the game
It's such
since,
a smart marketing move. Such a smart move.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, I haven't played the game since like they made the transition to the battle royale stuff. But like the style of it, I mean, it's just a great collaboration. And not only that, but like the blasters perform really well. And they're just cartoony enough that I think it just satisfies that kind of air of unbelievability.
How long have they been doing the Fortnite? When did that start?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, it must have been like a year ago, right? Because I mean, because Fortnite, well, I don't
Well,
know.
a year or two ago now, for sure.
So you
Because I
think
mean, like that blaster that you have on there was like one of the first kind of waves of the Fortnite stuff.
are they pretty expensive? Like an average Nerf gun these days? How much is a
Well, I
Nerf
mean,
gun?
yeah, I mean, so Nerf is expensive, but I mean, like you kind of feel like you feel that in the quality compared to some of the other blasters.
Yeah.
Um, but you of course you pay like the Fortnite tax on top of that. So of
Oh,
course Epic Games is going to want their cut of kind of their designs made real. So they're going to put a premium on that compared to a comparable Nerf blaster. So like that Fortnite ARL, that's comparable to like a Nerf Strife, but you're paying probably like $5 to $10 more because it's got the Fortnite logo on it.
that's crazy. It's actually a cool looking gun. This one. Are they
Yeah.
are people buying Nerf guns to not even use them, like to keep them as collective items? Like don't even like buy this Fortnite gun, keep it in the box. Is it that kind of collectible as well?
I mean, it depends on the kind, right? So like when I'm adding things to my collection, like I'm looking for a couple things, like availability, right? So like, is this on every store shelf plus Amazon, or is this an exclusive to a store? Is this like a one-off kind of thing?
Yeah.
And there is one of those kind of one-off things. So there was just like recently shipped was the Travis Scott Cactus Jack Fortnite blaster, because like he did that huge collaboration with Fortnite probably a year ago now, and they posted a like a link to his merch store to get his very own kind of influencer, music star Nerf blaster.
Is this the one right here that I just pulled
That's the
up?
one. Yep.
Wow, it's
And
cool
like,
looking.
so the box looks better, to be
Oh,
honest.
really?
Yeah, like the box art of this thing looks phenomenal. And then like you open it up and it's like, So like it's kind of one of those disappointing things, but you could only buy it through his merch store, and it sold out. Like all the pre-orders sold out like really quickly.
Whoa.
Similar to like that, like I think he had an action figure too, and like people are going wild for this blaster, and I just kind of kept it in the box. I posted like a video series on this about on TikTok, and I kind of left it up to my followers of whether I opened it or not, and they kind of they said no. So I'm keeping it in the box,
That's
following
not
the wishes of my fans.
that sounds
But
like one to keep in the box for sure.
yeah, I mean it's got like this Nerf limited kind of stamp on it, so like it's more of a collector thing, and the availability of it, seeing that you can only get it through the Travis Scott merch store, means this is going to be
A very valuable collector item, a collective item.
yeah, well, I mean just kind of like a neat if not that, like just like a neat story and kind of the Nerf brand.
Now, I guess my question is like if you went up to a kid today, like that's like 12 or 13, maybe younger than that, do they know what Nerf is? Do you feel like it's a popular toy for kids these days still, or has it become more popular because of the nostalgia and it's more collectible than it is like kids really playing using it as much as we did as kids, if that makes sense?
I mean, I think it's both. Like kids still love Nerf. Like it
Okay.
is it is a just a wildly successful brand that based on the financial statements from Hasbro, has no signs of stopping or even slowing down. Um, but you also have kind of us old people who remember it as kids and kind of have that nostalgia, kind of that history and legacy with the brand, that want to collect it. And that's actually kind of an issue with toy collecting in general.
Yeah.
Like if you look at like the GI Joe classified series,
GI
it's
Joe.
not the kids playing with it, which I kind of find heartbreaking. It's like all the old people buying 3 copies of it and just clearing store shelves.
Yeah, that's kind of like exactly what I was getting at. Is that kind of what's happened to Nerf? But you're saying there's still like an appreciation for it as kids, like going into. But you see, here's what's missing. Nerf was a part of that nostalgia of going to the toy store. The going to the toy store thing isn't the same. Like
No.
walking up to an aisle and looking at the Nerf aisle, which when we were kids was probably freaking awesome. Because what I remember is that there was always like a Nerf section, and then there was like a
Mm-hmm.
third party kind of like copycat of those too. But what is that? How is since this is very much a toy? How has that changed the way we buy toys? How do you think that's changed the way that kids have buy toys? I mean, you're just going to a website now and just seeing what's available instead of like being able to look at it in person. Do you feel like that's something that's necessarily hurt Nerf, or is it just something we miss?
I mean, I think it's kind of the natural extension of kind of how things shake out. I mean, we don't have KB Toys anymore. There's no Toys R Us in the United States anymore. I mean, like all these places are just gone. But that's probably part of the reason why you have so many like very specific influencers on things.
Like
Um,
that's like yeah, I guess it's
I mean, it's similar to video games, right? I mean, like, do you remember going to Toys R
oh
Us and like
man,
pulling the
yes.
card out of the thing and then
Hmm.
going to like the very like secret locked room after you've already purchased it?
Dude,
Like,
there was nothing cooler than the way Toys R Us set up buying video games. Pulling the tag, then I don't know if your Toys R Us had it, but they had that enclosed glass like plate with all the games, and
mm-hmm.
the guy or girl who worked in there, you were always like, they're the best. They have the best job in the world. They're surrounded by video games, Like there was such and I think it goes the same, like going into the toy store with your parents, buying the gun, holding it in your hands, not having to worry about say some like Amazon just shipping it. You know, you really went into the store and purchased it. And I think that, you know, that's something I wanted to talk to you about is like the toy industry in general has also been affected, just like you said, with video games has been affected. But these are physical, tangible items as opposed to
Hmm.
video games. They're tangible, but you're playing, you know, you're still playing it like, I don't know, it's not the same in my eyes, you know. Uh, so it's really interesting to kind of see the evolution of Nerf and also how it's affected the way that, you know, kids buy stuff. Because I'll be honest, Ryan, like I didn't really think about Nerf until I started seeing like all you guys like you don't really notice a niche until you find it, right? So
Absolutely.
I found your niche and then I started looking deeper into it. I was like, holy crap, Nerf is still going strong. And I had no
Yeah.
idea. So is there a mainstream like I guess kids might like it still, but what do you think about like the mainstream person that might have played Nerf? Do they have any idea that Nerf is still around, you think? Like
I
some
mean, I think it depends on like where the funny thing is like it depends on where you work because like in video game development studios or tech offices or like more I don't know I got maybe less buttoned up office environments is what we'll say is that like they'll have office nerf battles and things like that. Now of course they're not like trying to compare performance of every single blaster to each other or rate the collectability of any certain thing. They're just kind of looking to have fun. So like I think there's still like a an appetite for it, and then especially like if you have kids, then you're going to be like really aware of it, and parents will pick up a blaster and kind of dominate dominate with their height advantage.
that's awesome. And I guess what a good question to kind of like start kind of gearing towards the end is where do you see Nerf evolving to? Do you see it still kind of evolving in another way, or is it just kind of following the course of how this crazy internet world is changing? How do you think Nerf is evolving, and what do you want to see from Nerf in the future?
I mean, I think how it's going is like you have Hasbro doing their Nerf thing, but then you have all these other competitor companies that are filling in these areas that maybe Nerf doesn't find profitable, they don't find worthwhile to chase, or they won't go down because it's pushing the limits of performance even further. So you have companies like Xshot, right, from Zuru. They have like a line of value blasters that have really good performance. Now the quality isn't as good as Nerf, but the savings that you get with this, like it's going to last you until you're kind of done with the toy for most people.
Right.
Um, and they kind of do some pretty interesting things with like big chains and bolt action, this and that. Like people love that. Like everybody's like, how about the sniper this, sniper that? And it's like, well, Nerf doesn't do that many of those. Where some of these other companies do. And then you have a company like Dart Zone, which is going straight for like the super high end, ultra competitive, like people who dump hundreds of dollars into a Nerf blaster to like modify it and reinforce the spring. But they're just like offering you the product, like already done. Here's the box. That with kind of the speed and velocity these things are going, Nerf would never. I mean, like I don't see them ever trying to chase that
Right.
particular segment.
And there was a Nerf video game, right? Where there were a few Nerf video games. I think
Multiple. There's a couple PC games, and then there's at least two Nintendo
I
Wii
know the
games.
Nerf N Strike game, which I pulled up
Mm-hmm.
right now. How have the video games done over the years? I never really thought about Nerf video games. So,
Well, that's the funny thing. So back when I was reviewing video games, the sequel to this one is one I reviewed.
oh really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And I mean, they're just like, I mean, back in our days, we used to call these corridor shooters, right?
Right, right.
It's very much of that spirit and style. And I think it was kind of those early days on the Wii where people were still trying to figure out that very kind of unique method of control with the limitations that controller had. Um, there's actually some really interesting bits about these games. Is like I don't know how they settled on the set of blasters they did, but if you go through the instruction book, if you go through like the settings on this menu, there's a lot of blasters that either came out but look completely different or never made it to production.
Got
And
it.
I don't know if they gave EA kind of carte blanche to create their own blasters without ever intending to uh, produce the physical blaster themselves. Because typically, when you think of like a tie-in for a toy brand,
Hmm.
it's purely a commercial. I mean, like GI Joe, Ninja Turtles, like all those, purely a commercial to sell more toys. And this necessarily wasn't, which was kind of interesting.
We got a couple of questions. Omega said, I never owned a Nerf. I like how we call it. What would you recommend for a Nerf noob?
So I mean, like, if you've never owned one before and you're just curious, like, here are the things that I recommend. Like, look on Facebook Marketplace, because people will just sell a lot of blasters for relatively cheap. So like, you could get like a pretty good arsenal for relatively inexpensive. Like that's if you're not, you know, one of those people like, oh, I need to have a new box. You know, I want to open that. I want to, like smell the print on the box or like whatever. Um, but you can also get some pretty cool blasters for relatively inexpensive. Like, so one of the blasters I recommend for people who've never owned one before is get like a strong arm or a disruptor.
Nerf strong
Those two
arm?
blasters, they're pistol blasters. The strong arm in particular kind of has a drop cylinder, so it's kind of like this really fun mechanism that makes it feel kind of like a cowboy. And the disruptor is even easier than that. You just kind of front load the darts. But the performance on these is really good. They've been making these for like the better part of a decade, so um, they haven't stopped selling. There's a reason for it. I mean, they're just workhorses.
The strong arm looks cool. I'm going to read a long paragraph Genzo wrote. In college, my roommate was an NYPD cadet, and he brought two Nerf blasters. One day, he walked out of the bathroom and I shot him square in the forehead from like 10 feet away. He was like, "Okay, that's a fluke," and told me to finish the clip. Landed all of them on him. So he tells me to toss him the blaster to give him a try. He loads it up and ends up shooting a close silhouette around me. He laughs hard and goes, "That's why cops need 42 bullets."
That's funny.
That's
I love
funny.
those stories. I love those stories because everybody has like a Nerf story. Like whether you played it as a kid or whether you played it
Almost
in
gets sued
college
by
or anything like
Hasbro,
that.
you know. If you
It's great. I love it.
But Hasbro didn't always own Nerf, right? It was like its own
No,
thing,
it
right?
changed hands multiple times.
Parker Brothers started Nerf?
Parker Brothers started it,
Okay.
and Kenner owned it, and then Kenner got absorbed by Hasbro. But then there was also this like really weird, interesting like joint venture between Larmy, which did Super Soakers, and that's actually
Right.
what gave rise to the blaster type of Nerf.
Huh. It,
Because the person who invented Super Soaker, Lonnie Johnston, basically licensed some of the technology used for that for Nerf blasters,
huh. That's
and
interesting.
that's how we started getting kind of this performance kind of bend with that. So like any of the air tank or the air powered Nerf blasters are in part thanks to the efforts of Super Soaker.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably do a whole episode about Super Soakers and how that all went about. I remember that people were like, parents were like falling on top of each other trying to get Super Soakers in the stores for their kids, and there was
Yeah.
lots of fighting. And I remember kind of vaguely remember news stories about that. Um, so do you think that Nerf has a deal with when we talk about modern Nerf, it has a deal with Fortnite. Are there any other video games they're doing kind of cross promotions like that with as
Um,
well?
yeah, I mean Star Wars being a huge one.
Oh, that's right. Wow. Okay.
So yeah, they have the whole line of Star Wars blasters. The interesting thing about that is like you pay more for a Star Wars blaster than you do a Fortnite one, just because Lucasfilm, or I guess Disney at this point, probably has some really steep royalties at this point, and the performance there isn't as good typically as you would find in a comparable like Nerf branded blaster.
Interesting.
Then you also have Overwatch. I don't know if they're still doing that
Oh,
though, because
Overwatch.
like
That's right.
all of a sudden, all of the Overwatch blasters are off the shelves and like they ended up at Ross, which is kind of a liquidator for brands. But those are some really cool blasters too. And there's an interesting story. Diva had two variants,
Yeah.
and the second variant almost never came out. So there's the original Diva, right? The stock Diva, but there's also the Biva variant, which was thought to be a highly rare blaster that was canceled in production. And all of a sudden, all those Biva blasters showed up at Ross, and everybody just ran to get them
Oh,
because that was
wow.
the place you could get them. Yeah, like they liquidated them out even before hitting Target or Walmart or
I'm sur-
Amazon.
I'm surprised. I don't know if you ever played Destiny, but I'm surprised they never did anything with Destiny because Destiny is known for like really cool guns and stuff. That would have been cool if they would have done that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm back on the Destiny 2 horse, big time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Um,
Uh, but yeah, like, another brand I would love to see is like Ratchet and Clank.
ooh, yeah, that's a good example.
But then they're doing Halo now too.
Oh no way.
Yeah, Halo Infinite. So they have the MA40 assault rifle from Halo Infinite, and they released that last year before it got delayed and then delayed again. And if Amazon's right, they've got the what do they call it? The Mauler
The
or
Mauler.
something.
That's
It's like
crazy.
a new blaster from Halo Infinite.
So yeah, they're doing a really good job here getting into the
That is a
game.
fantastic blaster, by the way. Like as a prop
That's
blaster,
cool.
like
It
holy cow.
looks awesome. I like how they're being very very smart about figuring out ways to create smart marketing with video games because I mean, let's be honest, it makes people want to collect too. Biff
Hmm.
says, "I'm still trying to picture a world with ultra rich Andy thanks to Nerf domain name." Yeah, I wish, Biff. I wish. I wish. I'd love my custom CS:GO skin on a Nerf gun. That's a good. My bro has the Reaper blaster, and I think Reaper from Overwatch.
Yeah.
If I'm right.
So yeah, I mean, like the CS:GO, like that's interesting because like they kind of approximate that with Fortnite
Hmm.
because Fortnite blasters will have like the different colors are the different rarities in game. So anything yellow is the legendary, anything blue is the rare, anything purple is epic. Kind
Oh,
of gotten away with that with kind of like this new slate of Fortnite blasters, but and then you also have like the special skin, which is Best Buy exclusive, is the like that blaster right there, the SP. They have it in like the Ripley skin, which is kind of like this cool translucent to opaque paint fade.
right.
A lot of people say that reminds them of like the Rainbow Six Siege Black Ice skin.
Cool. Genzo says, what's thoughts on going from pneumatics to electronics? Did I read that wrong?
Uh, so I mean, like there's all kinds of blasters. I mean, there's pneumatic blasters as well as electronic blasters
What's a
still.
pneumatic blaster again? Sorry if I sound dumb. What's a pneumatic?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Maybe he means like air. Like I mean, it could mean two things. Like right, so like spring powered blasters force air out of a cylinder to push things out. So that could technically be pneumatic. And then you also have like kind of air pressure behind some of the darts. Like you fill up a tank like a super soaker, then you force it out as well. So that could be pneumatic as well. There's all kinds.
Hmm.
They recently released some of the air pressure ones under the Icon series. And then some of the spring power blasters are my favorite because you don't have to worry about batteries. But the electronic blasters are the ones that people modify beyond like any sort of crazy reasonable standard, just because it's easy to do and it's kind of fun.
So, what's the average cost of a Nerf gun today? Like, what would it run me? Just a general cost.
Like Nerf branded, like something decent that
Yeah,
that you consider like a primary blaster, like you're looking at around $30.
$30. Okay, not terrible. Not as bad as I thought. But now let's talk like if we want like a Fortnite gun or a Star Wars gun. Are we talking 60 to 70?
Well, so like the Fortnite the grenade launcher, which is a hilarious blaster by the way. I love the ones that are just super gimmicky and like unbelievable.
Right.
Um, like that's a $60 blaster, which was steep, but it fires rockets. It's like it's a revolving rocket blaster. um, so I mean, like Fortnite, you're probably looking at like 35, right? And then with Star Wars, you're probably looking at 40.
Okay, so it's not as bad as I thought. I mean, it's not great, but it's not like I was thinking, oh man, are they starting to sell these guns for like, like think of Lego. Lego is the most expensive toy these days. I mean, it's like ridiculous. I when during the before when going to malls was a normal thing, I'd go to the Lego store and I'd look at the prices of
Yeah.
it's ridiculous and unbelievable how Lego just gets away with these prices, but it's good to see that the Hasbro prices aren't too crazy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Lego's unique though because like you can still use a brick from 1970
Right.
on a Lego set from yesterday.
Hmm.
Whereas in Nerf, um, it's a more mechanical toy where you're either going to have like some material defect in 30 years, or they're going to change the dart type on you, and then you'll never
Right.
be able to fire a dart out of it again.
That's crazy, man. Man, this has been awesome. I really, really like going down this interesting genre with you, I guess, or niche part of the world. Um, and I just wanted to, is there anything you want to mention about Nerf that maybe we didn't go over that maybe I missed? Or is there anything that you think is important to talk about when it comes to Nerf? Anything to let the audience know that we might have missed?
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, I think we covered a lot. I mean, like the
Definitely
interesting thing
did.
about Nerf is like there's such a rich history with it, and really we just talked about blasters, and we touched a little bit, like, kind of on the footballs and stuff like that. But
That's a
that's a
whole
whole other
nother.
world of Nerf
Yeah.
that we didn't even get into. Um,
Genzo says one of the newer blasters I got has two wheels that grabs the dart and flings the dart like a baseball mechanical pitcher.
Yep. And those, so there's two kind of main classes of blasters, and one is a flywheel blaster, like the one he's explaining right there, and those are the ones that people are like drop in new motors and they overvolt, kind of they rewire it so they can get more juice to the motors. And then you have like the spring powered blasters typically, um, and those depending on how easy it is to open the shell of the blaster, you can drop in like some new springs, like the out of dart somebody mentioned earlier. Like he has springs for just about like every blaster.
What Omega is just what's the first blaster? Do you know what the first blaster was?
It was the Nerf sharpshooter, and
Let me try to pull it up.
it kind of had this hybrid suction cup dart with like fins on it. It was featured in Captain Marvel. It was like one of the hero moments, like towards the end of the movie, where it was like the gosh, like the villains of the movie, whether the scrolls.
The scrolls?
Um,
Are you a
they
scroll, Ryan? This whole time, have you been a scroll?
maybe yes, uh, but like yeah, like that was the one featured in there because it was kind of that time.
That's cool. Well, awesome, Ryan. Geez, this hour went faster than I thought, but dude, this has been really cool. Thanks so much for coming on, and I just wanted to be able to thank you personally for giving us a little bit of backstory, and I'm sure a lot of the people that came live, and then if you're watching VOD, thanks for stopping by. Ryan, tell us where we can find all your wonderful stuff. Where would you like to send everyone that's watching live or on VOD for coming on the show? Tell us all about your stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me on TikTok at Nerf War Battles. That is kind of my handle that I go by. But I don't talk just about Nerf. I would say the majority of it is Nerf. That's what people find me for, and that's kind of what I'll continue posting about mostly. But I also talk about video games, toys, board games, kind of anything within the kind of geek galaxy. I'll touch on.
That's awesome. Ryan, we'll have to have you back on, and we'll have to talk about some more stuff because we got a lot to talk about. I mean, there's so much still to talk about. But I think you've really done a great job at explaining like just like the Nerf culture, and I really thought that this was a different episode for me, but it fits the nostalgia side of things because, like you said, Nerf is very connected to like a retro community. It's a niche, it's collectible, and it's still around today, just like me collecting retro video games and how they're still around today, of course. So, Ryan, I think we're gonna raid someone, but I want to thank you again, Ryan, for coming on the show on the Cafe BTW podcast and getting up on an early Saturday. It's been awesome getting to know you as well officially, and yeah, let's raid Hatch Lord, who's no, actually, let me raid my friend Pal. She's an awesome streamer, so let me do that and put that through. But other than that, everyone, thanks again. We'll see you next Saturday on Cafe BTW, a morning coffee gaming nostalgia podcast. Until then, I'm Andy. This was Ryan, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Thanks so much. You too.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks.
All right, cool. We rated.